Come in. Gareth, welcome to the FIA. How can we help you today?
Well, I was just wondering if it was okay to update my podcast for 2015.
What? No, update? Certainly not. The FIA cannot tolerate this kind of progress at all.
But Gareth Jones on speed lifters can't just listen to the same stuff as last year.
Wait, forgive me. You are Gareth Jones?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were Gareth Honda. In that case, yes, Mr. Jones, please update away. In fact, cue the theme tune.
Hello and welcome to the new age of Gareth Jones on Speed, Season 11. Joining me, as per the previous 10 years of this programme, Zog.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you very much, Zog. And Richard.
Hello.
Happy New Year to you
Happy
as well.
New Year.
Did you have good festivities, boys?
Yeah, pretty good. Kind of quietly festive, not uproarious, but yeah.
Did you
good festive.
drive much over the period?
Little bit. I've only just completed my rather longer than I'd intended programme of fixing stuff. Yeah, about half of which wouldn't have been necessary if I'd done the other half properly. But there we go, you know. So I was slightly hampered from cruising the streets of London by having bits apart.
I noticed, Richard, that London empties at Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's about the only time you can drive anywhere in 20 minutes in London. I love driving around London. Did you do much over Christmas and New Year?
I didn't. Christmas Day, I drove up to see family. And apart from that, but the London thing, because I was discussing this with my wife, and she said, well, yeah, of course it's empty. Everybody goes away. London is a transient place. Everyone's from somewhere else.
I am.
It's like she lived in Los Angeles for a long time, and she said LA's the same. LA is deserted over Christmas because so many people aren't from there. And I said, but there are a lot of people. I used to spend, when I moved to London, I always thought that nobody was from London. But I now know quite a few people who are.
I'm from London.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well, there we go. You're one of them. I
happy.
think I know sort of a good half dozen people who were born and bred in London. So people are from London.
Yeah.
It does happen.
Your children are born in London. My son was born in London. So they will go through life going, we're from London.
Yeah.
It's not like everybody comes from outside and just sort of borrows a spot here. But yes, it gets very quiet. I don't think, and I'd be interested if you're in Birmingham or Manchester or Bristol or something, whether they get as quiet. I think it is a bit of a London
Where
thing.
does everybody go?
I don't
Where
know.
do they go?
Do you think like Ipswich is absolutely rammed with all these people from Ipswich who've moved away?
And pockets of Leicestershire.
Yeah, it must be, or the countryside. It's just that, you know, previously tranquil bits of distant lands in Lincolnshire
All these
have
bankers.
massive traffic jams full of London-registered cars. Oh, they're back again, you
Country folk all over the place are opening their windows of a morning. It's like, where did they come from?
So anyway, I was going to say, just because of this thing, London streets being quiet, I was driving around London in our little Fiat 500 Twin Air, which I haven't been driving very much recently, and I'd forgotten that it's quite an amusing little thing, and particularly when the traffic is light and you can sort of zoom around like an Italian. And I think I've said on the show before, that car does 39 miles to the gallon.
However you drive it.
However you drive it, really. The other day, I reset the computer, as I do every so often, being quite boring, just to see what the computer thought it was doing. And for a brief period of clogging it, it was doing like 22 miles to the gallon. I was like, I'm glad petrol's cheap at the moment, because that's ridiculous. But then kept clogging it, it zoomed up to like 45, and I was like, that's so it's actually the secret that I need to be more aggressive with this car. Maybe it's entirely tuned to be driven as if you are an Italian and you're in Turin and you're late for something. I don't know, but
So
I'm
you
going to
have-
continue the research.
Or maybe the display of your MPG isn't entirely reliable. Just
well,
have to
there's
throw
that
it,
as
just a
well.
possibility.
Yeah.
Here's the
Do you
test.
know what the 39 thing is? I think because it takes an average and it just levels out after a while. I think the economy's all over the shop, is the truth. And eventually, 39 is the... I always get these mixed
kind of
up.
long-term
Medium
average.
mode. I can't remember.
That would be
Well-
come on, Zog, is it medium?
Well, it would be some kind of average, but I'm not sure whether actually you'd really want to use any one of those three phrases, because an average like that is kind of a rolling average. It's going to be a rolling average that's taking account of whatever it is, the last 200 miles of driving, or the last day, however many hours, or whatever it is, or maybe even just the last 10 minutes, I don't know. Mode would actually be correctly applied to that kind of averaging. I'm saying
just
I
make it
don't
up
know.
as it goes along. No, that's fair enough. I don't know either. It's not that interesting. I wish I hadn't brought it up now.
Right.
But anyway, also my other theory is the car's not got many miles on it for its age. It's got like 15,000 miles on it. But I'm thinking maybe also it's actually just sort of run in now.
I
Modern
reckon
engines take a while to loosen up. The guy at Suzuki told me they reckon 10,000 miles before their engines are really giving full oomph.
Really?
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Very
'cause-
tight
'cause,
tolerances.
you know,
we don't say
we
run your
think,
engines
yeah,
in
exactly.
anymore.
No, you don't, do you?
You don't run engine in?
I
You're
asked
gonna have to
someone.
go-
I asked someone about that at a car company ages ago. I can't remember what car it was, and I said, "Does it need running in?" And he went, What? No.
Hang on, maybe we ought to just remember the age of the people who listen to this programme. By the way, if you are younger than us, and I would imagine most of you are, younger than me anyway, running in is what you used to do, even the 70s, perhaps even the 80s. You're given a car, they say, for the first 6,000 miles, don't go beyond 55. Really, that was it, wasn't it?
I think it was don't labour the engine, don't use too many revs. I don't think I ever saw this, but I'm sure my dad told me that sort of in the 50s and 60s, you'd actually see cars with a running in sign in the back window to alert people to the fact you weren't going to be moving quickly or doing any rapid acceleration.
Please pass running in.
Don't honk at me for going slowly. Yes. I'm taking it easy.
It's quite strange though. And it is, I mean, these are the wonders of modern technology. Tolerances on engines are so fine now and it's all set up to work from the off that you don't need to do that anymore. Imagine running in your washing machine or your microwave or something. Don't cook anything too hot for a bit.
I had an interesting chat with somebody recently where we were talking about tolerances in engines, and if you've got some kind of mechanical sense, an older design of engine has stuff in it that you can work out why it's broken or not doing what it should. And you can
straightforward engineering.
An awful lot more easy than you can a modern engine with not just its tighter tolerances, but a lot more computer control. There's a lot more sensing of what's happening here, and we don't always think about this, but a lot of it actually has to do with kind of efficiency and running an engine as efficiently as you can. And in order to run it as efficiently as you can, things have to be done within a narrower kind of band. If you want to get this thing to run as efficiently as possible, you can't have your sort of tolerances all the way down the line. But those tolerances all the way down the line make it a bit easier for you or I to bodge this thing.
Have I told you the story about the Range Rover factory and tolerances? I'm sorry, I don't know whether I mentioned this before, but you remember the original Range Rover, the classic as it became known?
Yeah.
Later in its life, they put in the dashboard from the contemporary Discovery, and they're known as the soft dash Range Rovers, and they're quite sought after now by Range Rover geeks. And at the same time, they gave it one-touch electric windows, but if you put those one-touch windows that go up, you have to have a rollback device in case someone puts their hand in there. Yeah. So the supplier was tasked with developing this and then sending the results to Land Rover. And Land Rover installed it in a car, and they rang the supplier and they went, well, this doesn't work at all. You put the window up, it gets the top of its travel, it drops straight down again automatically. That's no good. And the supplier's like, what are you talking about? That's impossible. I mean, we're working to an industry-leading 3mm tolerance here. I can't understand it. And the Land Rover guy went, well, that's where you're going wrong, you see. We built the Range Rover to an 8mm tolerance. So the doors, 8mm. I mean,
the windows were too good for the car.
Exactly. Yeah. So the windows were going up. The whole fit and finish of the door is so wonky that the glass is clattering into a bit of its own frame, and that's tripping the sensors. Yeah. They had to wind them right back because of how badly made old Range Rovers were.
But in doing so, gave the car a greater flexibility, intermediate technology, I think they call it, don't they? Where you have something that's not quite so critical, it becomes more versatile.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, yes, maybe. You can fix it with a hammer. Good morning, sir. How can I help you?
It's about the car you sold me. There's something wrong with it.
Oh dear, sir. What seems to be the problem?
It's the engine. Every time I start it, it moans about immigrants and says all unemployed people are lazy.
Now you see, sir, that's a design feature.
It's a what?
A design feature. You see, the engine is built to very specific intolerances.
Intolerances?
Yes, and that's what gives it ghastly opinions.
Well, I don't like it.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, but I did try to warn you at the time that you were buying a Ford Farage.
Sniff Petrol! With Gareth Jones on speed!
You know the way in which the Formula One season invariably starts rather like the end of the last season? It's sort of pick up where we were before, a few changes, but generally the trend is usually the same. Then over the first 3-4 races, the new pattern for the new season emerges, I think, perhaps over 5 races. I think this episode of Gareth Jones on Speed, the first of Series 11, carries on with a bit of the last episode of 2014 series. I think we've got to dispense with that first. And as you know, the last episode was me driving from London to Merseyside in a borrowed Nissan Leaf as an exercise. Can it be done? I felt it was a good idea to have an electric car in Liverpool because it probably wouldn't get nicked. Sorry, Liverpool, I didn't mean that. But didn't mean that. So, as you know, I just about got to Liverpool. The car was great. The rapid charging network let me down. So I ended up on a flatbed truck, as you know, but eventually I arrived in Liverpool. Now, my time in Liverpool with the car was cool. It was great. I palled up with the Nissan dealership in town, who were a mile or two perhaps from where we were doing the place. I was able to drive into town, leave the car on charge there all day at one of their points, because I couldn't charge it at the flat where I was staying in Wallasey, and pick it up at the end of the day. It was brilliant. And then when I needed to charge at the other end, because I was staying on the Wirral, at Seacombe Ferry Terminal, they've installed, I think there were 6 electric car charging points there. So I could park my car there overnight, the Leaf there overnight, and walk from Seacombe Ferry Terminal, the mile, back to my flat. So I got the recharging sorted out. In fact, even when we were rehearsing, we were in this dance hall in West Derby, and there was a furniture manufacturer also sharing this sort of yard, and they had a plug near a window, so I could park it in the yard and charge it up all day. And they were, oh yeah, just give us a favour, mate, that'll be all right, you know. Generally, people were really helpful. He said he got an electric car. Oh yeah, plug it in. Oh, that's great. You know, people were more than willing to help out. And old people like electric cars. Every time I stopped in that Leaf and got out, some old codger was going by. You have one of them electric cars. Why he was a Londoner, I don't know, but older people seem to like the idea of an electric car. It's interesting.
Which is ironic, because you want a noisier car in order for it to be less likely that it will unexpectedly run them over. I mean, that is one of the downsides of...
Well, I didn't kill anyone.
As you get older and your hearing goes, surely you don't care how noisy your car is in terms of owning one. You wouldn't go, oh, I like a quiet car. You go, actually, do you know what? I'll have a BRM V16 now that my hearing's going, and I won't even wear ear defenders while I'm driving it.
Yeah. I'm just about Motorhead while I'm driving.
Yes.
Yeah.
The noise wasn't a problem. I didn't kill anyone in the car, I'm very pleased to say, or even run over anyone or injure anyone. So I got the recharging sorted out when I was in Liverpool. It was no problem at all. And at the end of the run, Violet and the kids came up to see the show, and then we took off to North Wales to go and do some family things over there. So I'll go in the electric car. This is where it got complicated. As far as I can tell, there are only 2 electric charging points in North Wales.
There are only 2 plugs. What, like...
yeah, we've still got gas. We haven't got electricity yet in Gwynedd.
Everything just burn coal.
And in order to get to where we were going, which was sort of Conwy, we had to stay in a hotel on the way and blag the hotel to put a cable in through the window to their office so I could charge it up. And they were very helpful. They let us do it. Couldn't do it overnight because we couldn't leave a window open. It would invalidate their insurance. When the office was staffed in the day, they were more than happy to help us charge. So we got this little extra bit of charge, which got us the distance from Liverpool all the way to North West Wales to Conwy, to stay in a hotel which had an electric charging point. This guy has got this little guest house and he's gearing it towards people who have electric cars. So, yeah, we'll stay there for one night and we'll charge the car. Then the next night, our friends who own a house 400 yards away from this place were coming to stay there. So we could leave the hotel and go and stay with them, but leave the car charging at the hotel, which I did. And then one morning, staying at Carol and Steve's, Violet comes running into the bedroom about 8:15 in the morning. She got up earlier than me. Gareth, you need to wake up. There's a bit of an emergency. A bit of an emergency.
Yeah. Anyone waking you up at 8:15? Yeah. Sorry, I assume that anything that happens at 8:15 involves waking somebody up.
Yeah.
8:15. Anyone say it's more than a bit of an emergency. There's no bit of an emergency.
No, it's like being a bit pregnant, isn't it? Yeah. So what happened? Well, there's been an accident with the car. God, no. So I jumped out of bed, got straight into my clothes and walked up through the wind and the rain to this, wind and the hail, to this guest house where we've been staying and where my car had been parked at one of the 2 electric charging points right at the front of the hotel, and this glorious hotel, this lovely drive. Because while it was still dark about an hour previous, a Bwrdreisef Conwy District Council bin lorry had reversed into the Nissan Leaf.
Oh.
And smashed the rear window.
What?
Bent the rear door.
Ooh.
Moved the car about 3 foot forward. Mercifully, it hadn't touched the wall. But worst of all, I had bent the C-pillar of the car, which supports the boot, put a crease in it at an angle of whatever that is. So
about 90 degrees, 100 degrees.
Yeah, and effectively written the car off because it needed a whole new side to the body.
Wow.
Now, apparently there was a man at the back of the vehicle calling it back. Come back.
Are they called banksmen?
Is that what they call it?
A man who stands behind a lorry and tells it to reverse. I'm sure they're called a banksman.
Well,
in this case,
don't know why.
In this case, you'd call him something else.
I'd call him
something else.
lips, man. I'll tell you how bloody well. Because he allowed this car...
So what happened then? I don't understand if there's a van
They
there.
reversed into... They weren't expecting this car to be in the electric car charging point because only one other electric car had ever been parked there previously.
What?
They collect in the dark every morning, and he was backing up, didn't look behind him, but stop, too late, crunch, wrote the car off.
Jeez.
So,
what an idiot. I mean,
yeah, really.
sorry, what an idiot.
Yeah, an idiot.
How useless do you have to be to not...
Negligence, I think.
You had one job to do.
So
Yeah,
are they
yeah.
then scarpered?
No, fair play. They spoke to the man in the hotel, Hugh, who owned the hotel, who came knocking on the windows to wake us up and tell us what was going on. And they sent a supervisor up. So I marched up there, upset that the car had been damaged, but had no idea how bad it was.
Because you borrowed it from Nissan, and,
Yeah.
and it's even, in a way, it's worse if somebody else's car in your care gets damaged than it's your own.
Yeah, I really felt the pain. I felt rotten about it. And I'd actually grown to love this car. I don't like the way the Nissan Leaf looks. I think it still looks stupid, quite frankly.
Well, Conway Council have tried to help you there by substantially changing.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
ways
necessarily-
giving it some Lexus crease, yeah.
I mean, it does look exciting, but I don't find its looks offensive.
Maybe I'm skewed
mundane.
because I really love the way that the Zoe looks, and I'm really starting to love the i3, and I didn't like that before, but I do. And the Tesla's magnificent, so there are better looking electric cars. So yeah, there's this whole claim going in now between Nissan and Conway, which will settle that. The upshot of it was that I did travel back from North Wales to London electrically, but on a train, of course, with Virgin Trains. I was going to come back in the car on my own, send the kids back on the train with Violet, because I knew it could take long on the way back. It probably wouldn't, because my research showed that there were good charging points all the way down. So what have we learned from this? The electric car's great. The Nissan Leaf really works well. It's a very practical car if you can charge up at home. If you've got a driveway and you've got a charging point at home and you don't do more than 90 miles every day, have an electric car. That kind of makes sense because the whole refinement and that sense of well-being that you get driving one does make you feel good. I felt like I was in the future.
The thing about the infrastructure is, I mean, it seems to me that it's simply, of course, the infrastructure isn't good enough right now to support really widespread adoption of electric cars. But infrastructure can be built relatively quickly and easily.
It's not tricky with electric cars.
It's not hard to put charging points in.
No, electricity
and
is everywhere
as the
anyway,
demand,
isn't it?
and it's easy to move electricity around. And as the demand grows, the infrastructure is going to grow. So
the
it's
cars
a
are
matter of
fine. The
time.
infrastructure that supports it is not quite there. In terms of the rapid charging at the moment, here in London we've got charging points near the house. In Liverpool I could manage with a little bit of walking, and that's part of the whole eco experience. You might argue that's okay. So it can be done. But if you're relying on them to deliver a rapid charging, and it will charge it up to 80% in 23 minutes. Oh, this is a great analogy I was taught. Charging an electric car is like roadies packing a truck. You can fill it up to 80% really quickly with the big PA cabinets and the larger items. It's that fiddly other stuff that takes so much longer at the end. So rapid charging, the more you want to put in, the longer it's going to take. But you can get 80% in 20 minutes, and then the next 20% is going to take another 2 hours.
Is that because the electricity stops to smoke a joint and fart
I
for
think-
a bit? Or is that just roadies?
It goes for a shower halfway through.
Do roadies shower these days?
Oh,
Good Lord.
yeah, every month, whether we need to or not. Thank you very much indeed. Speaking as an ex-roadie. It was an extraordinary experience. That sense of other cars suddenly being noisy that you get from prolonged use in an electric car. You then get back into a petrol car and you do hear the engine. It does sound a bit sort of 20th century, if I'm being honest about it, you know. I'm not saying that the electric car is the solution at the moment. I'm very keen on hydrogen. I love that hydrogen car that we drove.
Yeah, but hydrogen is a way of storing energy.
So I should have
It's
said
not an
battery
energy source.
cars rather than...
Right, because we're talking about hydrogen. Are you talking about an internal combustion engine that's burning hydrogen, or are you talking about a hydrogen fuel cell car? If it's a hydrogen fuel cell car, then it's still an electric car.
Yeah.
It's just about how
You store the energy.
Yeah, you're storing the energy as hydrogen rather than storing the energy as chemical potential energy in a battery. Although, in a sense, turning electricity into hydrogen, to put it crudely, that's storing it as a form of chemical potential enery. Lecture over.
Toyota are getting into hydrogen at the moment. Have you noticed that
Yes,
they've made
with
their...
the single worst looking car possibly I've ever seen.
But they did a big giveaway. They've opened up massively access to their patents.
Tesla style.
And,
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, I
Open
applaud them
source.
for doing that.
Yeah.
So let's applaud them for doing that.
No, good,
And that,
good work,
that
Toyota. Nice.
dreadful looking but technically very interesting car is coming to the UK in some way or other.
Yeah.
I think they'll bring a handful over and maybe just run them as demos or lease them to customers who will understand what's required. But it's all happening, isn't it? And that's another new development. Two things have occurred to me. First of all, I just realised, since we've said the word quite a lot, that if I went back to the 80s and was forming a band, which would obviously be some kind of synthesizer group, I think I might call it Infrastructure.
Yes. Infrastructure, yes, I remember them. Weren't they signed to New Order's label?
Parallelogram Records or something. I don't know.
Album Factory, FAC 093, I think, was...
while we're on the subject of Lecky cars, because if you're in Liverpool, it's a Lecky car. It's a Lecky car! Yeah, it is, yeah. Did you read that press release from Kia this week about do they call it the e-Soul? The
Soul EV, I think it's called. Which delivers 134 miles, they reckon, now.
For its charge. Yeah. That's handy. That's useful.
I know.
I'm quite tempted.
Worth
You liked your Soul. You had one, didn't you? You enjoyed it?
I borrowed a normal diesel-powered Soul. I thought it was a perfectly good car. I couldn't really find much wrong with it. I mean, it's just... it's a car. It wasn't the most exciting thing, but I liked almost everything about it. It went about its business in a perfectly acceptable way. He says, damning it with faint praise. I liked it. It was good.
But it had the right number of wheels.
And, it's got a big warranty, and it's not very expensive relative to some other cars that are also sort of practical and family-minded, and I would recommend it to a friend if required.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
But you see, that kind of car which becomes an appliance... You don't even notice what it does. I've said this before on the programme. It's very appealing to a large number of car buyers. They could have a hit on them again.
Yeah, well,
I've got to tell you before this show's out about the car that I think I've bought or am going to buy.
Then you're going to tell us after this.
I'll tell you, because there's two things. First of all, you mentioned 20th century, very 20th century.
Hello.
And sort of analogue. And cars that you wouldn't recommend to people who just want a car that goes about its business. It's the sort of opposite of that in many ways.
He's bought a Hillman Imp, hasn't he?
Oh!
In a moment, we'll find out. Okay, coming up later, one of the hot new bands for 1985, it's Trapezium. But first, some sad news from Parallelogram Records, and it concerns their new signing, Infrastructure. It seems lead singer Lecky Carr is in hospital after being body slammed by the lead singer of Welsh Arabic duo Diagram, Conway Bin Laurie. We don't really prepare for Gareth Jones on Speed, but we did actually exchange a couple of emails in the last couple of days regarding this show. And Richard, your response to the email to what I was planning we might want to talk about was, I might want to talk about a new car that I may have bought slightly. How do you slightly buy a car? It's like slightly being pregnant again.
Yeah. It's a bit of an emergency.
Has a deposit gone down, or is it still at the thinking stage?
A deposit...
A handshake?
No, it's been done over the phone thus far.
Uh-oh.
Card details have been given.
Oh, hello.
To a man who I'm hoping isn't a fraudster. He works for a big dealer group and he shouldn't be.
All right.
Money has not left my account yet. It's one of the reasons why I sort of think I've sort of bought this car, but...
You may not legally own it.
I definitely don't legally own it because it hasn't been built yet.
Oh, no, okay. And it's old and analogue, you say, but is it a new car, a new built car? It's a new built car.
Yes.
You haven't done what Ian Callum's done, have you?
What, and designed a load of really good-looking Jaguars?
No, not that.
In my mind.
Yeah.
Like,
not that part.
Like a Mark II
No, I haven't had like a Mark II made modern, no.
Yeah.
This is a brand new car, or it will be, I hope. Yeah, at the moment it probably exists merely as metals in the ground.
So you've given somebody a specification.
Why do you think I'm getting my money?
Perfect car. So what, you've given somebody a specification for your ultimate car, or have you got...
No.
Are there any escape pods, machine guns?
No. I've not been able to specify. In fact, it's a brand new car, and yet I don't think I will ever be able to specify anything on it. It comes as is. What you get given is what you get.
This sounds exciting.
What is it?
One of the reasons why I'm not entirely sure, I have told them I want one, and I've told them, here's my card details, if you want to take a deposit to hold my name on the list. I think I find out tomorrow if that's definitely going to happen, because they're not making that many.
Wow.
What is it?
And that's it. When they've made them, that's it, because this car is going out of production, and it's been in production for many, many years.
Okay,
so this is the end of production of this
line.
car?
Yeah,
Okay.
And that's why they're making last few.
So it's not a mini moke, because they've already done that several times.
Well, they keep coming back to life again, don't they? So I wouldn't rule that out, but no, I haven't bought a mini moke.
Are they about to stop building?
Let's think, see.
Is it a Jaguar?
Is it a Hindustan ambassador?
No.
Is it...
This was in the news last week.
Go on, it's killing me. Tell me.
I think I'm buying one of the last Land Rover Defenders. So I don't know whether you saw last week, they announced that 3 special editions that see out the end of that car.
I hadn't noticed.
And one is called the Adventure, and you can have it in bright orange, and it's got a snorkel and sump guardy stuff on it, and all manner of off-roady, outdoorsy type stuff.
And it's not that one.
Not that one. There's one called the Autobiography, which is two-tone leather interior. I know they use it on Range Rover as well, it's a ghastly name, but it sort of means posh in Land Rover world. So it's leather interior, all the trimmings on it, and they're only making 80 of those, and it's 61 grand, which is preposterous. But they're only making 80. And I think people in London, I gather, they're assuming will buy it.
It'll be the ultimate Chelsea
The
track.
third limited edition, and the one that to me is the cheapest and to me the best as well, is called the Heritage Edition. And
it's kind of back to basics version.
Yeah.
Retro green.
Clearly the right
I was going to say,
steel wheels, a white roof, a retro style grille with an old fashioned Land Rover badge on it.
Yes, with the ziggy zaggy.
With the ziggy zaggy and one on the back. The interior is like this sort of light coloured cloth, because apparently that was the colour of the seats in the original pre-production Land Rover, the one they still have. And it's got some sort of weirdly nice little touches on it. Like, for no apparent reason, there is a little coloured band around the top of the gear lever that's yellow, and then on the lever for the transfer box, there's a red band, which isn't on any other Land Rover. It's sort of like a little detailed touch, like having sort of nice stitching on the buttons of your suit.
Does it also have a man running in front with a red flag?
It might do, yes, and a hand crank, yes. It's not a modern car. It probably has. I don't know. Anyway, they're making 400 of these Heritage Editions. They announced it last Wednesday. That evening, I went to the glittering What Car Awards in London's West End. And I'd seen this and I'd gone, oh God, I really like the look of that. But I just, no. Don't be
had a drink, Richard.
Well, no, I
got a bit drunk.
No, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't. I bought the car completely sober.
Show. Did you have a good time at the show? How are you?
By the way,
what's that parked in the living room?
I've got a piece of paper in my pocket. It says, you have bought... Oh, no. No, I met... at that awards, 4 people who'd already put their name down for one of these cars. And these are journalists and PR people from other car companies.
Oh, wow!
And one person who worked for Jaguar Land Rover, but because they're only making a few of these and they're going to be sought after, there's no favours, he had to ring his local dealer as well. So I suddenly thought, oh my God, I'm so jealous now. But I thought, no, it's stupid. Why am I going to buy one of these things? And then I was looking at it again online and sort of drooling a bit, and my wife went, what's that? And I said, it's this Land Rover thing. She went, oh my God, that's so cool. And I went, yeah. She went, how much is it? And I told her, and it was half what she thought it was, which is always a good thing. She's very good at estimating car prices.
She is with her.
So she thought, that looked like a really expensive car. So I went, no, it's half that. And she went, oh, why don't we get one?
Yes!
Well, that was all the encouragement I needed.
Why you married her?
Yeah,
exactly.
Good girl.
So,
good girl.
I know. I was actually quite shocked, because I thought I'll do a bit of a hard sell. I think I can win her around. Didn't need to. Yeah. She was doing a number on me. Yeah. So the next morning, this is Friday morning, I rang my local Land Rover dealer, expecting them to say, we've sold out. And he went, no, well, we don't know how many we're going to be allocated. We've had 3 deposits. So you'd be number 4. We should know next week, but we're confident.
You bought an option, basically, haven't you?
Yeah, I have bought an option. Yeah. Now, the logic here is because it is still quite a lot of money, which I'm going to worry about later.
Well, we can look it up anyway.
30 grand.
Okay.
But my logic is this. You see, look, I'm now pretending that you are my wife in the scenario where she wasn't really so keen, yes. But the thing is, I don't think it will lose money, and the other thing is, I think it might be one of those cars that I'll keep forever.
Yeah.
Or I'll get really bored of the fact that it's actually extremely cramped and noisy and slow, and I'll just sell it after a month. But in that case, I hope I'll get my money back. No, I was just powerless to resist, because I thought, I didn't buy one of the last of the line Minis, and I hate Volkswagen Beetles, so I wouldn't have done that. But I feel like there's a little bit of history here, and you just go, well, even if I do just have it for a bit and then sell it, I feel like I just sort of should, because I always liked them, and why not? And even though we'll start.
Fair play to Land Rover, who I think have looked at what Twisted were doing to their cars and said, we could do that ourselves. We can make our cars look a lot more desirable than they previously were. And I think that's smart, because I really lost after Twisted Land Rovers. Of course, like all Land Rovers, but a Twisted Land Rover.
Have you seen a picture of this car, by the way?
Yes, I have. It's a grey green, isn't it? Very pale.
One of the things that worries me is I'm not sure what it looks like in real life, because I think they've only built one to show off. And, these things.
And they drove it. Land Rover took these 3 cars. And
look at that!
Oh, lovely. Now, that's on... Is it in Bentech? It's on Anglesey.
Red something, where
where the first car was conceived.
Yes, and they
in
drew this
Anglesey.
1 kilometre wide replica of the sketch in the sand.
You're right, it's a great kind of...
That's just
Look at the wheels. You know, we were
British
talking
motoring
about
history.
old-fashioned retro simple steel wheels. There they are.
Yeah,
baby.
yeah. See, again, well, that's the thing. It's almost like they've been listening to this podcast and we were going, Steelies. We like more cars
Yeah,
with Steelies,
yeah.
because most Land Rovers now, you have them on alloys, but that is proper old steel wheel and your retro badge on the grille. And the number plate off the original pre-production car that they still have is just a little
HUE 166, that famous.
seats.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
I
just
feel
brilliant.
sometimes like I've had a rush of blood to the head because
Good.
I don't need that car.
Good.
At all. There will have to be some reorganisation of the fleet to make room for it. But
Well, look, I tell you what.
I don't know. I just thought, why not?
You can park your Fiat 500 in the back of that.
Yeah. They're not that big, though. I was walking
I'm
the
not
dog this
actually
morning
that
and I walked past because they did a heritage edition about 14, 15 years ago in another sort of retro shade of green. There's a guy who lives near me who's got one. I walked past this morning. And those 90 short wheelbase Land Rovers, they're very tall, but they're weirdly wee lengthwise.
Short. Not, yeah, 90. Yeah,
90s
yeah.
are short, aren't they? Well,
Yeah.
90 inch
Shorter
wheelbase,
than the
and there's
old
not much
110.
overhang, so you basically it's a sort of 92-inch long car.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I've done. I'll find out tomorrow. Do you know what? The worst thing is, I think I was going, well, do you know what? If they say, no, I'm sorry, we haven't got any allocation, you can't have one, I'll probably be immensely gutted and then comb the country trying to find one, trying to find a build slot.
Yeah.
Whereas if they go, yeah, we've got one, it's coming in September, I think, which is when we'll get them, I'll probably have buyer's remorse and go, oh, no, I don't want it anymore.
Well, like I say, if you have to sell it immediately, you're almost bound to make money on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not really the object of the exercise, because I just
No,
thought, but it's the man maths. The man maths says, no, won't lose money on that.
That's
fine.
correct, yes. I want to come to man maths on cars
Yes.
in the next episode of Gareth Jones on Speed. But being as this is the first one of the new year, have any of us made any car-based New Year's resolutions or revolutions, perhaps? Have you got a...
Actually, I have. Well, the first one is I've got a bit of rust coming up on the car now,
Yep.
which I've known about for a while, but I figure it's time to get that sorted. So this year, sort the rust, get that welded, properly sorted, and also I'm going to do a new playlist for the car every month.
Oh,
Yeah, there we go.
yeah, very
Those are my
good.
resolutions.
Yeah, Richard?
Well, as it turns out, my resolution was to buy a stupid old Land Rover. But apart from that,
done.
no, I didn't really make any, but I was thinking about this. Just something else which I've been bugging myself about is that I think I've become a bit of a lazy driver. I think I drive one-handed a lot.
Oh, yes.
Bad habits, and also, used to heel and toe and things, just because you can.
Do a clutchless gear change if you
I mean, our Mercedes is an automatic. The Fiat is manual. If I get this Land Rover, I don't think it's really a heel and toe car because the pedals are all a foot apart. And I borrow a lot of cars through work, but often they're semi-automatic, the paddle shift or something like that. But when I get in a manual car now, I just drive it and I'm like, oh, just bang it down the box. And I thought, no, I'm going to try and be a tidier, more conscientious driver in a sort of technical way.
Nice.
Good. Like
I find I drive better after the Johnny Herbert karting challenge. When we go off and do a bit of track work, albeit in a kart, when I get in my car and drive around, my lines are much better around the corners. I'm smoother. Yeah, so I get that.
You're not like my boss, Andy Willman, the producer of Top Gear, who once took part in a banger race for a magazine story and then was leaving the track in his Volkswagen Corrado at the time, and someone sort of cut him up and he was about to slam into them because he'd forgotten he wasn't banger racing anymore.
I was going to say, the thing about my driving, anytime I leave one of those karting events, is I just get out onto the road and I'm grateful that nobody's running into me all the
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
It just, makes a pleasant change.
Well, my resolution is, it's a shocker, I think it's time to sell my Sora. I've flirted with the idea for the last 3 years and never managed to give it away.
That's a big
But I
change.
think the Sora's going to go. What's going to replace it? I have no idea. One day it could be a Renault Zoe, the next day it could be a Lynx Aventa, and it could be anything in between those two cars.
Hey, Gareth,
Well,
do you
well,
want
let's
to
get
buy a
some
slot on a Land Rover build list?
Yeah,
Just £1 million.
I like the way you think. So, if you want to buy a Sora, first person to put 1,500 quid in my PayPal account, you can have it, mate. I'm kidding you not.
Ready first.
Yes, Happy New Year. It's nice to be back. You've been listening to Zog.
Goodbye.
To Richard.
Goodbye.
And I was Gareth. See you for the next one soon.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site, follow us on Twitter, or to find out about sponsorship opportunities, go to garethjones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!